There we go. And it looks like we're live. And hello, everyone. Good evening and welcome to the League of Extraordinary Atheists for Humanism, where we try to apply logic and reason to religion and politics. I'm Mac, the Grey Skeptic, and this is my lovely co-host,
Christy. How are
Christy
you?
Santiago.
That's me.
Yes, so great to see you again, Christy, although I've been looking at you for like the last 10 minutes.
It's always great to see you.
We also have Nacho Witness in the background. I don't think you guys can hear him, but we'll be able to hear him. He's had everything put together for us. He made a couple improvements here on our stream, as you guys can see. He improved the border.
Gorgeous.
Thank you, Nacha. So getting straight into it tonight, we have excuse me, we have two main topics tonight, and those are both regarding the environment, and one's really regarding lead, and the other is regarding mostly carbon. So, without further ado, Christy's going to take over and touch base on our current events.
I am. With the UN, I'm going to start off with a quote that I thought was just had so much oomph behind it. The quote is, "It's difficult to get a man to understand something when his salary depends on his not understanding it." A quote by Upton Sinclair about climate change. The most recent United Nations report on climate change was released recently. The UN says the world needs to step up its efforts to stop catastrophic climate change. The report from the UN Environment Agency found greenhouse gas emissions actually rose in 2017 after 3 years of decline. It also said that the world is losing the race to cap global warming at 2 degrees Celsius, the target set out in the 2015 Paris Climate Treaty. A key UN climate conference started in Poland this past month. It's a very dire warning that they are there to discuss, and this warning came with much in this report. The UN panel of scientists say that governments around the world must take rapid action to curb rising temperatures, or else millions around the world will face catastrophic disasters. So they were basically saying that the very livability of our planet is at stake. Not in 20 years or 30 years, but right now. We have right now and the decade in front of us to do the extraordinary things that have been prescribed to be done and have been already proven to be worth the time and cost. This report was kind of a progress report, if you will, on what was previously agreed upon in terms of the Paris Accord, when the international governments all met in Paris and agreed on targets to try to keep global warming contained to 1.5 Celsius, above pre-industrial levels. The report also stated that if governments want to come anywhere close to meeting this target, then they need to do things now to drastically reduce carbon emissions, greenhouse gases, within the next decade. That's 10 to 12 years max. And if governments do not, the report also states that they will start to see things like the loss of the world's coral reefs, all of them. And all of these countries, the world also, mind you, their low-lying coastal states will keep seeing increased ocean level rising. We're also talking about the extinction of hundreds, if not thousands, of the species that we share this blue marble with. The report stressed that it is imperative that these warnings are heard and heeded now. They also state more forest fires, more wildfires, more flooding, more droughts, more famine, bigger storms and hurricanes, and hotter summers with ferocious storm seasons. Abnormal weather, I see. And this abnormal weather has been and will become the new normal. Not just governments, but the people too. Us people can take steps, our own steps, to help fight this with reason and the help of the best climate scientists in the world. We need to pay attention to what they are saying. We need to ask questions and get informed. Also, do not take the pressure off your local government at all levels. Write letters to your congressmen and congresswomen. Call them as well. Let them know that you want them to fight for our future, that you will be watching how they vote, and if they vote with big oil greasing their pockets, vote them out. We have to have strong progressive leadership that understands science. We need investment in emissions capture technology, which scientists in this report say that there's been no investment into this technology. The world needs a very broad spectrum of efforts, from individuals to local governments, all the way up to world leaders. Even big oil and private sector need to be in on this effort. And there are things that we, the consumers, can do as well, just to name a few. Think about electric cars, and if that's too big, electric lawnmowers, electric blowers. There are so many tiny things that we can all do that will help us reach sustainable, renewable energy targets down the road. The human body also does not need to eat meat every single day of every single one of our lives. Try 3 or 4 times a week, maybe even 5 and move down to 3 or 4. Try to get the most local when you shop everywhere you can shop. As a society, we the people, start talking about any of these things with others and each other is the best way to start. We should take these dire warnings from this climate report very seriously. Not irrationally. Let's start the conversation. Call your senators, your governors, or write to them. With our president, a so-called climate denier, claiming that climate change is a Chinese hoax, with absolutely not a shred of evidence to back up such a bizarro claim, of course, the people, us, we have to step up and do our part. Our leaders sure do not look like they're about to be lifting a finger to help stop the catastrophic climate change in our future. Of course, they will all be on the wrong side of history. Bill Nye, the famous science guy, said in his recent book, quote, "Changing the world requires rigorous honesty about the nature of our problems," i.e. talking about the data, the factual information. Bill Nye went on to say, quote, "With as much respect as I can muster, the president doesn't seem to want to keep a thought in his head for too long." He went on, "Sooner or later, the floods, the hurricanes, the fires, everybody's fed up with it." He finished with, "So everyone's going to realize that these predictions that climate scientists have been making for decades are coming true right now. So let's address it." He also shared that climate scientist James Hansen testified in front of U.S. Congress on June 30th, 1988, about climate change. That's 1988. That's so long ago. About a year later, the U.S. had 13 agencies get together in the U.S. Global Climate Change Research Program. That's 13 agencies, all addressing climate change during a conservative Republican administration. This thing was created at that time with the Republicans. It just blows my mind we've come so far. Still talking and adding, Bill Nye said, "So if we just decide to address climate change, we can." Oh, he's such a good guy. He also says that this opportunity is right in front of us. These predictions from these climate scientists are coming true. There's so much in that story, in that report. The report is huge. I don't know if anybody's actually sat down and taken a look at that. It's massive, and it's dire. it's dire for sure. The coral reefs, the one after another, and being here in Florida, we have family in Miami, and on a sunny day, without it raining the day before, downtown Miami will have 2 or 3 inches of water on all the roads. Like, it's happening right now. Mm-hmm. So, I know that was a lot, but I did have a lot to add on the.
No, it's fine.
On our climate change, for sure.
And I want to jump back to that here in just a few, but I'll let you go ahead and do the other current event. I was planning on you doing the other one first, and then lean into it. So that's cool. So yeah, go ahead and Christy's going to move on and talk about the U.S.-Mexico border, and then we'll come back on environmental issues.
Okay. Now I got most of this information straight from Human Rights Watch, which is a great organization for anyone. It's nonprofits. They don't care who, what, where, what side. They're just there for human rights. So U.S. Customs and Border Protection ordered medical checks on every child in its custody Tuesday, after an 8-year-old boy from Guatemala died in New Mexico, marking the second death of an immigrant child in the agency's care in less than a couple weeks. A report by Human Rights Watch, HRW, traces over the past several years a devastating look at the vast system of immigrant detention. A massive network of facilities ranging from federal prisons to private commercial for-profit detention centers to the tent cities in the desert. Most official records generally list nondescript reasons for deaths, such as cardiac arrest. But ICE's opaque bureaucracy masks a growing crisis. Researchers note the growing frequency and patterns of neglect displayed in many of the death cases as warning signs that went ignored. In fiscal year 2017, according to federal statistics, 12 humans died on Homeland Security's watch, a record number since 2009, and double the death rate of just 4 years before. Now, advocates fear that Trump is trying to turn the country's immigrant detention system into a new kind of death row, if you will, along the border. As the Trump administration dramatically expands the deportation regime, the government insists that mass detention of people who have committed no crime other than border crossing is necessary for maintaining law and order, although there is actually no federal code that mandates mass detention or that must teach immigrants a lesson, though there is scant evidence that refugees have been deterred at all from fleeing for their lives. Many around the world are looking at the U.S. border with Mexico in horror and wondering how the crisis was allowed to happen. The only rationale seems to be the desire simply to extract profit through the political and economic exploitation of the suffering of families. Poor medical treatment contributed to more than half the deaths reported by the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE as they are called. During a 16-month period, Human Rights Watch, the American Civil Liberties Union, Detention Watch Network, and National Immigrant Justice Center said in a report, based on the analysis of independent medical experts, the 72-page report called Code Red: The Fatal Consequences of Dangerously Substandard Medical Care and Immigration Detention in the United States. It examines the 15 detainee deaths reviews ICE released from December 2015 through April 2017. ICE has yet to publish reviews for one other death in the same time period. 8 of those 15 public death reviews show that inadequate medical care contributed or led to the person's death. The physicians conducting the analysis also found evidence of substandard medical practices in all but one of the remaining reviews. ICE has proven unable or unwilling to provide adequately for the health and safety of the people it detains, said Clara Long, a senior U.S. researcher at Human Rights Watch. In fiscal year 2017, ICE held a daily average of nearly 40,500 people, an increase of nearly 500% since 1994. The Trump administration has asked Congress to allocate $2.7 billion for fiscal year 2019 to lock up a daily average of 52,000 immigrants in the immigration detention facilities, a record number that would represent a 30% expansion from fiscal year 2017. To the extent that Congress continues to fund this system, they are complicit in its abuses, said Heidi Altman, policy director at the National Immigrant Justice Center, a non-governmental group dedicated to ensuring human rights protections and access to justice for all migrants and immigrants, refugees, and asylum seekers. Congress should immediately act to decrease rather than expand detention and demand robust health, safety, and human rights standards in immigration detention. ICE puts thousands of people's healths and lives at risk by failing to provide adequate medical care to the people it detains for weeks, months, and even years, said Victoria Lopez, senior staff attorney at the American Civil Liberties Union, and I have to agree.
Yeah.
I didn't even know that many people had died. And your whole job is just to keep them alive. Like, you just feed them, give them medical care. Oh.
Right. And like worldwide too, there's like there's a ton, there's hundreds of thousands of people missing and dead. Like, they're filling up mass graves in other parts of the world with people who have died just trying to.
I feel like the mess that this administration is digging is going to take us decades to get out. And I'm not saying it was perfect before, but this expansion, I mean, what was that? 52,000 immigrants daily for detention. I'm sickened. That's $775 a day per immigrant that our tax money is paying these for-profit prisons. So the whole thing is effed up.
Yeah. And very soon we're going to have to like just do a whole day on private private prisons. Can't for-profit prisons. And
never be
for-profit. It shouldn't be a thing.
No.
And like, as far as I'm concerned, two of the biggest issues in this country is for-profit prisons and for-profit like healthcare, like insurance agencies.
Yeah. And all money out of politics. Those three things. Yes.
A couple things I want to point out, and one thing that Casey Atheist pointed out is that the U.S. is dropping people off at bus stops.
Yes.
Back down in Mexico, and like they've done that before, but there's always been communication between where they were dropping them off. I can't remember where. So,
El Paso. Yes, they dropped them off in the street on Christmas Eve.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They just
And without telling anybody they were coming, or that they need juice, water, milk for the babies, diaper, anything.
Yeah, they just dropped families off. And but yeah, they usually tell areas when they're dropping a busload off back down to Mexico, but they didn't this time. And another thing that they were doing is they were turning them away, like they were turning some of the immigrants from the caravan or whatever away and saying, you need to enter over yonder, knowing that that's an illegal place to enter. So then they would be able to detain them instead. Like, it's pretty fucked up how we're doing things. So yeah, there's a lot there, and there's a lot of resources to look into. We touched on this briefly, but we'll probably continue to do so. So we'll give you more information in the next show when we have more time to research it and there's more updates. Because as far as Felipe Gomez Alonso goes, we still don't know why exactly he died. He went in for a common cold, I think early Christmas Eve around 10 a.m. They kept him for a few hours. They gave him some amoxicillin. They gave him some ibuprofen. And they sent him, I was going to say home, not home. They sent him away with 103 fever. around 7 p.m. He was worsening, and his father denied any more medical attention at that time. But then a couple hours later, he was still getting worse. Like his cough was getting worse. He just wasn't doing well. He finally collapsed.
Yeah.
I think around 10 p.m., 10:30 p.m.
Right.
And they tried to take him back to the hospital, and he lost consciousness, and they just couldn't bring him back. They declared him dead 12 minutes before Christmas. But all that said, all that we know, we don't know what caused it. But there could be a lot. I know that, what's her name? Jacqueline. I can't remember her last name.
No.
She died, and she was, I think she was 8 years old. One was 7, one was 8.
She was 7, he was 8.
She was 7,
yeah.
he was 8. She died from dehydration and septic shock.
Yep.
These people are just not being taken care of. When they were going through South America and through Mexico, there were cities that the caravan were going through where the city prepared for them to go through.
Yep.
Because they knew they were coming, because there's news coverage. I was asked by someone, like, in my real world here, like, well, how'd they know they were coming? This whole thing was planned or staged or whatever. I'm like, no, that's bullshit. Like, there's fucking news coverage of, like, these thousands of people coming up to our border. Like, we know where they are. We know where they're going through, right? So these towns prepared water, they prepared food, they prepared places for them to sleep. Like, businesses opened up their doors so they had somewhere indoors to sleep on a floor, or
it was a cold night. Yep, apparently it was a freezing night. Like, you wouldn't have been able to sleep outside.
Right. Like, yeah, and yeah, that's when they dropped him back off at the bus stop. But I'm talking just on the way up.
Oh yeah.
There are multiple, like, checkpoints, like cities prepared for them to stop there. Some businesses offered people just like jobs. Like, hey, if you want to stop now, you can have a job, and some did, right? Because that's, like, they're just looking for a better life, and they'll take it where they can find it.
An opportunity. Yep, an opportunity to eat every day.
Yes. So if these cities can stop and, like, help them checkpoint, like I feel like us being the greatest country in the world, right? We should be able to do better than this.
Yes.
Like, there is some kind of disconnect. Yes, let's be exceptional. Like,
exceptional, American exceptionalism. Let's be exceptional.
Yeah.
I don't think we
need.
We don't need 100 or 200 troops at the border. We need 100 or 200 lawyers at the border. We need 100 doctors at the border. We need humane. We need people to care that these are people. And if they can't stay because they go through the process, which we have a very structured process here. I mean, the numbers that I was reading I could have gone on and on. It's so expensive for us to house them in detention. It's ends up being anywhere from $7 to $17 a day to put an ankle bracelet on them. No, I'm sorry. 17 cents to $17 a day to put an ankle bracelet on them and let them not be in detention. That's what we were doing before. And with the people that were put in this program that they could not be in detention and have an ankle bracelet on their ankle, 97% went to their court hearings. And then out of the couple percent that didn't, over half of them were late or just didn't have a ride. They still came, they still rescheduled it. It's such a small amount of people that just don't come.
Right, yeah, it's less than 10% that don't make it to their hearings. Like, it's not just illegal criminal immigrants who are just trying to take advantage of the system. Like, there's people seeking asylum who are actually, like, just trying to escape a bad life.
Right.
And we can take them here. And I think I've said it before. I mean, like, even if, like, you don't want them, like, fucking up our economy or what the hell ever, or, like, taking all our jobs, like, Alaska will pay you, an American, to move up to Alaska and live there and work there and help the economy. And I'm like, if that's your mindset, fine, take this approach. Beggars can't be choosers. Send them up to Alaska. They'll be Americans. They'll help the economy. I feel like that's, I mean, like, I don't know how Alaska would feel about it, but still, there are places where we need workers. We can improve population in different states, and Alaska is just one example.
I understand. That's my thing. Our vetting is so strong. And it takes anywhere from 18 to 24 months of vetting. So at the end of that time, if they don't pass for whatever reason, that's what I'm worried about. I'm worried about the time that they're here, that they be given all of the appropriate opportunities in that 18 to 24 months. And if they don't pass, they don't pass. But I don't think anything should stop them from getting the same exact that they would get coming from any other country, looking any other way, whether it be blonde hair, blue eye. I don't care. If you say I'm seeking asylum, that's all you have to say by international law. That's it. And it doesn't matter where you come in or if you came in through a port or not. Once you are here, per our Constitution, you are legally able to say, I am seeking asylum. Yeah. And so people that say they don't want that to be the law, that's fine that you don't want that to be. But that's still the law. That's the law right now. Yeah. So if you don't want it to be, then go try to change the laws. But the laws as they are right now need to be followed. Mr. Law and Order, follow the goddamn law and order. It's just so frustrating because we could do so much better. We could actually be helping instead of creating all this chaos and nobody knows what this person's doing over here or what this group, and nobody's talking to anybody, and it's embarrassing.
Yes.
It's embarrassing.
Yes. So I think we'll break from this topic. Okay. Because at this point we're just going to
beating the dead horse.
Yeah, that horse is well dead.
He's in the glue factory.
Okay, so back to our next topic.
Yes,
the environment.
Back to the future.
Yes. First thing I want to do right now is, before I go on to my main topic, is tell anyone who may be a climate change, like a global warming, like denier, just give you a basic education real quick on what global warming is, how we get climate change, like why we know this is a thing. And it's because there are greenhouse gases. If you don't know what that is, Google it really quick. Just that alone will like clear things up for you. There's carbon monoxide, there's methane. Oxygen is like a very small portion of our atmosphere. Like there's a lot of different gases in our bubble that we live in. And things like carbon and things like methane, they're greenhouse gases. And that means they warm. Like they warm the planet. Like Venus is full of these gases and also sulfur, or like sulfuric. I don't think it's acid, right? So,
you know what you're saying.
Yeah. So the more of these gases that we pump out into our atmosphere, the warmer the climate will be. Like it doesn't just all seep out into space or whatever. No. It stays here in our atmosphere, right? So the more warming gases that we pump out into the atmosphere, I'll say again, the warmer our planet gets. And then that melts ice and the poles. And some of that ice, it's not just water ice. Like it has more it has more carbon monoxide in it, and it releases even more of these greenhouse gases. Like, it is a perpetual warming, and it sucks. It sucks for us. It sucks for you and me, along with every other oxygen breathing, needs some cool air kind of animal on this planet. So it's a real problem that we have to deal with, that we are dealing with currently. So that being said, I'm going to move into our next topic tonight, and I'm mostly going to tell I'm mostly going to tell you guys a short story here.
Yay!
Yay! And my script is but it's like kind of all over the place.
That's
So I'm
right.
going to try and keep it straight. I have a lot of information, and if anyone in the chat has any questions while I'm doing this, I'll try to keep an eye on it, so I can answer questions as I go along, because I do have answers to questions throughout my script. And if you would, real quick, Christy, I would just like to point out, would you show everyone your script?
Yes.
Because she can. Look at Christy.
This is all of that is the first one I did, and the second one starts there and goes to there.
Yeah, on and on. And Christy does this for every show she does, whether it's here on LEAH or if it's on Wonder Lady's channel. So she literally writes out her script.
Yeah, with a pen and paper, because I'm an old lady.
And I type mine. And I do a lot of fucking Spark Notes. She puts so much more time into it, and it's it should be appreciated. So I wanted to point that out real quick. So thank you, Christy. You're so sweet. All right. So if you have not heard of Professor Claire Patterson, have you, Christy, besides today? Yes.
Yes. And when you had mentioned, I'm like, and then as soon as I started diving in, I was like, yes! Yeah,
this guy. So good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
They referred to him as Pat. He had a PhD in geochemistry. This guy was a smart cookie. All right. He was also he's one of our most important American heroes, world heroes that you just don't hear about anymore. And by the time I get through discussing this, it'll probably be pretty clear why we don't hear of him anymore. And it's not for a bad reason, for anything like he did immorally. So, Claire Patterson, as I said, he was a PhD in geochemistry. A little bit of background before I get into it. He actually worked on the Manhattan Project with his wife before moving on to probably his greatest achievement. One of the greatest achievements that we've made in human history. He was set out to do something pretty amazing by Dr. Harris Brown, and this was to date the age of the Earth. And Brown also commissioned another scientist, George Tilton. And I won't get into that too much, but the two of them, they were supposed to date things. I think Tilton, if I look at my notes here, because I threw this, his part in this was to measure the uranium that they had, and Patterson was supposed to date and find the amount of lead that was in a meteorite. If you can date a meteorite from outer space, then you can date the solar system. Hence, you can date the age of the Earth. Pretty basic idea. This is not disputed. Unless you're a young Earth creationist and you'll dispute anything. Because actually, the only date that we had before going into this really was that the Earth is about 6,000 years old, and that was due to atheists going back and just dating the Bible, like going back through the genealogy. So this is the probably the best. This is the best because it hasn't really been refuted in like the last over 60 years. This is how we know the age of the Earth. His findings came to 4.55 billion years old. That's how old the Earth is, and he did that by measuring the lead in this meteorite and like dating it using what is called radiometric isotope dating. I think get the right term here. I lost it in my notes. I'm so sorry. I put it in the wrong spot. Anyways, oh yeah, I used it funny. Radioisotope dating. This is where you can date radioactive material that has a constant decay rate into their stable form, which is usually lead. If you could ratio the amount of radioactive material, such as uranium, that had decayed into lead in a rock, you could determine the age of that rock. You do this to a meteorite again, then you know the age of the solar system and then the Earth. All right, so like we knew how to do this. The issue, when Claire Patterson was testing to see how much lead is in his samples, it was off by a fucking lot. And the issue, yeah, he had way too much lead. Like there was not supposed to be this much lead in his samples, and they were comparing it to zircon crystals. And I don't know a ton about this, but they had some control, but he knew by taking different samples from his samples, he was getting dramatically different lead outputs, if I'm saying that right. So the issue was there was lead all around him. So he did whatever he possibly could to clean up his work area, sanitize his samples, and he was still getting extra lead interference with his samples, with his measurements. And this is maddening. So this caused him to create the first ultra clean room. Super duper cool. This is why we have clean rooms, is because he was trying to clean up the area because lead was everywhere. It was literally in the air that we breathe. This is a problem. So he finally got a reading, and this is how he came to the 4.55 billion years, like to date this rock. So the Earth is about 4.55 billion years old. Cool stuff. We know that now. But he didn't ignore the problem. This is what's really cool. He didn't ignore the problem of there being way too much lead. And if you don't know, lead is poisonous. That's why we have graphite pencils now and not lead pencils. That's part of the reason. So he continued his research into just lead. And he checked the ocean, actually. He checked the higher levels of the ocean and the lower levels of the ocean. And they should be about equal. Like there's going to be lead just about everywhere. But what he found is on the higher levels of the ocean, the upper levels, however you want to say it, is thousands, literally thousands times the amount of lead than in the lower parts. And it takes generally 100 years for lead levels to mix and equalize in the ocean, in the water. All right. So this means this lead is new. And this was back in the 1960s. I didn't date this. I'm sorry. So finding this, he eventually determined where this lead is actually coming from. And it's from gasoline. So take a step back for a second and think. What do you see when you go to the gas station? You see unleaded plus, unleaded premium, and then there's like also ethanol, right? Ethyl, yeah. So diesel, yeah. So we have that there because it used to be leaded gasoline. And why is this bad? Well, I just told you, lead is poisonous.
Yeah,
it's very poisonous.
Yeah,
it's not good. So when he found this out,
from learning.
Yeah. When he found this out, his funding got cut, which is not surprising because who was funding him, like dating the age of the Earth? Well, the funding actually came from oil companies, which was cool. But when they found out that they were a problem, they're like, "Oops. Well, you need to stop researching now." He's like, "Well, no, lead is poisonous. This isn't good for people." They're like, "Okay, well now we are stopping your funding, and you're not going to be a scientist anymore." They tried to deplatform him. They tried to keep him from sending anything else out. This is where you can start seeing what corporations do today. They lie to make a profit, right? But he had already submitted his work to a scientific journal, Nature, and it had already caught the attention of renowned scientists. So he got the scientific community and like big organizations such as I named one, the Royal Society, to fund his research, to go on with this. So science supported itself and like trying to find answers. And so he went on, he checked the ocean levels again. They checked blood. So we were seeing that there is more lead in people, just humans, in their bloodstream than there ever had been before. They checked teeth. There was more lead in teeth. He even went down to Antarctica and checked the like Arctic ice, and he took out like ice core samples to check the earlier ice levels and the lead levels and earlier ice and the newer ice, and like you could clearly see lead was covering the entire planet.
Right.
We were choking ourselves the fuck out.
Yeah, we could be extinct right now.
We could, if we had went on.
Yeah,
we could be
without him.
Yes, or really retarded. And I don't say that lightly.
No,
so,
I know.
Yeah.
Very.
Yeah. For those of you who don't know, and I'm sorry if I offend anyone, if you were born before the 1970s, there's a super duper good chance that you have a lower IQ than anyone born after, well before we started putting lead in gasoline, which was in 1922, I believe, when Thomas, I think I'm saying his name right, Thomas Migley Jr., he discovered this mixture because they were trying to get their vehicles, like GM hired this person and a few others. GM and DuPont hired them to figure out how to stop the knocking in engines and automobiles. And they found out that it was gasoline. So they started using different mixtures in gasoline. So they gasoline. So like you could put alcohol in it. You could put, there were a few different things. I can't remember them all right off the bat, but alcohol was one, like alcohol derived from, and also lead. Thomas Meagley Jr. found that you could put lead in it, and that stopped the knocking. It also, what else did it do? There were multiple things it did. Give it to you now. So they called it anti-knock fuel because it did fix the problem. Cute cat. Speed picked up in automobiles. It supplied more horsepower, and it was cheaper. You still had enough octane levels to make it all work, but it throwing the lead in, and lead was cheap. And I think they actually got it from France because it was because they were mining so much of it. But they knew it was poisonous too, because they would give their miners like masks and stuff to keep from like getting too much lead poisoning, which was bad. Meagley even knew that lead was unsafe because he got lead poisoning while doing this research, and he wrote a letter, I believe, to the GM saying, "Can you imagine how much money we're going to make? It's going to be 100 million. It's going to be 200 million. We're going to make a lot of money out of this." While he had lead poisoning. Yeah. Thinking of the money. So going on from that, I think it was DuPont or Depot. Whatever.
It was DuPont. Yeah, DuPont.
Yeah. They had a manufacturing factory where they would put the lead and the gasoline, and I think they called it the loony gas or the loony factory, like the workers did, because people were going insane. Yep, literally going insane, and they were dying from lead poisoning. Yeah. For some reason, that didn't ring any bells. Well, part of that reason was because Kehoe, Robert A. Kehoe, MD, GM hired him, and he wrote scientific and medical papers to persuade the public that lead was safe. And these lies went unchallenged for 44 years until Claire Patterson came along and realized, hey, lead's everywhere, and started to point out lead ain't good for people. And these two went at it in court for years. Public hearings started actually when Claire Patterson was down in Antarctica. This was done on purpose, so he couldn't defend his position. But a week into the hearings, Patterson came back from Antarctica because he heard about the hearings. So he came back unannounced and bursted into the hearings, and he was able to defend his case. And this threw a fucking monkey wrench in the corporations of the time trying to keep this quiet and show that lead was safe. So again, I was going to mention why lead's not good. So 200 years ago or so in Europe, tomatoes were outlawed, if you didn't know that. This was my first ever look at lead poisoning, was because the plates that these people were using they had lead in them. And the acid from the tomatoes would actually bring out the lead, and they'd get lead poisoning. So they'd get heavy metal poisoning, and they would either go insane or just die from tomatoes. So they outlawed tomatoes because they didn't know any better then. But eventually we found out lead sucks. All right. So how much does lead suck? As I keep beating around the bush. We found out if you put a tablespoon of lead on your skin, it could kill you or make you go insane. It is classified. Yeah, it's very slow. It's classified as a neurotoxin. Yeah. It slows down the transport of oxygen to the brain just through the bloodstream because it's good at blocking things. Lead is dense. Lead is good for a lot of things. It's very malleable. It's very soft. but it's not good to be around organic things.
Right.
It builds up in your kidneys and other organs, your bones. It builds up in your teeth. That's why I'll get to that. And it displaces minerals that you do need in your body. It displaces calcium, iron, zinc. And it also blocks glutamate, which is the most important neurotransmitter that you have. So that's why I said a couple minutes ago, if you were born before the 70s, this lead from emissions got everywhere, even down in Antarctica. It got in you. Like, you are most likely, if not definitely, less smart. You have a lower IQ because you had lead damaging when you were a kid. And I'm sorry for that because, geez, like that fucking sucks. Like, there was a part in your life where you didn't develop, and you're like most developing like childhood stages. Like, this really hurt the human race, and it could.
Was preventable.
Yeah, it was very much
100% preventable. Yep.
Right, because Thomas Meagley knew in the 1920s that you can get lead poisoning. They knew in the 20s when they when employees got sick and they died, but instead of being honest about it, they hired an MD to persuade the public that is fine. Not only did they hire an MD, Kehoe, who I mentioned. Here's a fun fact, which I already told Christy and Acha, is Dutch Boy paint. They knew this, but they wanted to push that lead was safe because it's in paint.
Like big tobacco, they did the same thing.
Yes.
They always do the same thing.
It's
Bottom
safe.
line.
It's safe for kids. It's fine. It's fun, actually.
They're doing the same thing. Exact same play. The exact same thing for climate change right now. Hiring these big, huge mouthpieces and talking heads. All they need to do is sow just a little bit of doubt. They don't have to prove anything. They just have to make common, average American citizens doubt what they're being told. And that little bit of doubt will let them make extra billions every couple of months. The average person isn't going to see anything except for their environment fall apart. But that wealthy corporation is going to make ducats because of that little seed of doubt. Yeah, it's deplorable. I say that word a lot these days. I don't know what another word. They're shisty, slimy, blatant.
It's really disgusting.
Right, and in your face.
Yeah, because it's all there.
Thanks, Smitty.
You're right. Yeah, because the evidence is all there. Like, this is a neurotoxin, and we had it in paint. And they made Dutch Boy that you see on the paint cans. They made him to help propagate that lead is safe. Like, there are old comics. Some of you might even remember them. I was gonna have Nacho put some on, but I didn't ask soon enough to get some actual video up. But they made comics with lead parties for toys, and only the cool toys with lead paint could come and play, because it was safe and that was fun. But lead wasn't only in gasoline and paint. It was also in food as a preservative, because lead's good at killing things. So it's a good preservative. It was also used as a sweetener.
What?
Yeah, it was used as a sweetener. That's why kids ate paint chips, because it made the paint sweet. I didn't know that until last night. I didn't know that. It made the paint chips sweet. So also don't try that at home.
No.
But it also helped. It also helped the paint dry faster and stay fresh looking longer. Lead's good at that. Lead's good for a lot of things, but it's also a neurotoxin. Keep that in mind. So Patterson fought Cahey, and he removed lobbyists until around 1972, when lead was finally started to be taken out of gasoline. But this was largely due to the invention of the catalytic converter, which reduces carbon emissions only fueled by unleaded gasoline. So science kind of just helped, like in a different way. Like we found something else to like lower emissions, because like no one likes emissions from cars, right? Like we'll deal with it to extreme, right? Two extremes, but yeah. So the catalytic converter really kind of saved us, because only so many people listen to science and reason, right? So this helped. Now, when it was taken out of gasoline then, and the catalytic converter was introduced, within 2 years, lead levels dropped in human beings by 80%.
Oh, wow.
I'll say that again. The lead level in human beings dropped by 80%. This proved Patterson once and for all. It was done. Like Cahey was done, right?
Mic drop.
Hey-ho, yeah. So yeah, mic drop for sure. But this was in the 70s. Like he fought for years, and finally, they had real, like, more real results. Like slap in your face. Oh shit! Like, okay, lead was everywhere, and we already know lead is poisonous. So like the puzzle pieces just came together.
Right.
And it's stayed like at an 80% drop since we've taken lead out of gasoline. In 1995, we had the U.S. Clean Air Act, and that's also the same year that Patterson died.
Class of 95.
Class of 95, hey! That was my kindergarten class. Such a little person. Sorry, Christy.
I'm so old.
I'm so little. I'm so young.
You're just so little.
I turned 30 in like 2 months. Anyway.
Oh, so cute.
So in 1995, the U.S. Clean Air Act banned lead from being used in gasoline. So in 1996, the last leaded gasoline was sold, at least in the U.S. And they've done this worldwide now. In 2002, I believe, I didn't write this down, China followed suit. So they no longer have lead in gasoline, or they ban it, at least at that point. Mm-hmm. So that's fantastic. So we have much lower lead levels now on the surface of the earth. It can stay under the earth. That's where it should fucking be.
Yes.
For us, all right? I don't care about money and like corporations, like capitalism, when it comes to murdering us.
Right.
And that's where we round back to today. Because the same tactics are being used. Carbon, like, we need carbon to a certain extent. Like, it's good for plants, right? They bring in the carbon dioxide. But our plant life can't keep up. Bless you. Oh my God. Bless you.
I think I'm good now.
I want the leprechaun to get you.
Okay.
Yeah. If we're tearing down forests and trees, then there's no way we're going to keep up with the carbon emissions that we're spewing out using fossil fuels. Not only in our vehicles, but in factories as well. This is a huge problem. And we have the same fake science being spewed from the other side. But the majority scientific consensus shows that carbon and cow farts.
Greenhouse gases.
Yeah, just greenhouse gases. First
I
of all,
have it.
methane.
Yes.
This isn't good for us to be breathing, and for really the Earth itself, because the Earth harbors a lot of life. Like it has a lot of plant life
Livestock,
besides like
yeah,
us.
emits enormous amounts of greenhouse gases. Yes, and the methane.
It's not good. We need to not only stop using fossil fuels, but we need to promote more wildlife, more green wildlife, more like plant life. There's a lot of things that we can do, and I would like to get back into this at a later date again.
Yeah.
But I wanted to show that science can be used for good or bad, but you really need to go by real science. You need to go by peer-reviewed research and what the scientific community is showing and saying, because they're usually the ones who are just trying to find the truth and not trying to help corporations.
Right.
And corporations can't be trusted, is what we're seeing again and again. And as I've said before, that's not why I'm here. I'm not here to show the awful things that corporate America does. I'm here to just try to show truth, logic, and reason. And the logic and reason here tonight is lead is poisonous. Carbon and methane are greenhouse gases. We know this. If we're throwing more lead or carbon into the air, it's not good for us. Don't say that global warming isn't a thing. Don't say that lead isn't a neurotoxin. It doesn't hurt people. So use this example, as I have been using for the past year or so. Use this lead example to show, hey, we ignore real problems. We almost killed ourselves already. We're doing it again. Check out The Cosmos. I think it's like the 18th episode or something. Neil deGrasse Tyson goes into this in great depth, and it's a really, really fantastic story. Go onto Wikipedia. There's only a few YouTube videos that really cover this well, but I'm going to link them in the description box below. So you guys can do your own research and really see this. It's very, very clear what the evidence points to. I forgot to point out one neat thing. Claire Patterson also tested pre-Iron Age mummies to show that there's less lead in them than there is in us. So
that's just crazy.
Yes, crazy, creepy. So look into this yourself, because it's really an interesting story. And if any of you believe in global warming, which I believe a lot of our audience does, you probably know people who don't. And if you can use this example, because this is done, like the court hearings are out there and the consensus is made, lead is fucking poisonous. And lead was in gasoline. Point out the simple fact that we still try to let people know, hey, gasoline's safe because we took lead out of it. It says unleaded because it was a big deal. So point this out to people and point out that the same tactics are being used today to show that carbon monoxide and methane it's not a big deal. But it is. It really is killing us. And the UN just released this report that Christy covered. We have 12 years to turn things around before
12 max, max.
Yeah,
right.
And this is turn things around in a drastic way. Not just stop using fossil fuels. If we just start using electric cars, lawnmowers, and whatever else, if we just turn to Elon Musk,
they're cheaper.
Yeah, and
we have a blower that's you plug it in. The lawnmower, you plug it in. Yeah, we look like we're vacuuming the yard because it's a little like Prius sounding lawnmower, but it's hundreds cheaper and it's better all the way around. It is tiny little things. You just have to. You do have to prepare to mow the lawn. You start farther away and move up, and you have to make sure you don't run over the cord. There's a few things that you have to get used to, but
Yeah.
It's just, why wouldn't you want to? Why wouldn't you want to?
I mean, if you want to live, and yeah.
Or children, or
You wanna breathe.
grandchildren, or nieces and nephews, or just, I don't even need to, like I always say, I don't need to know someone to feel pain if they're crying, and I don't need to know someone. I can walk by and see a family cracking up, and it's contagious. I will crack up. I don't need to know other people to want the best for them. So children in Indonesia that live on low-lying coastal cities, I love just as much as children here in Louisiana living on low-laying coastal cities that are going to get bombarded with water. I think that both of them should be equally respected and brought into the think tanks. Like, yeah, you don't have to know them to put their lives and their safety and the respect of their breathing into consideration. We're all in this together, all of us, every color, every culture. Right. And the sooner we realize that, we as humans have way more in common than we'll ever have that makes us different.
Right.
And I think that's where we're going to be strong together.
I think you're right. Yeah. You're right. Yeah. And I mean, like Christy said, we are all in this together. Whether you like it or not, or whether you like each other or not, right? So I think you should share this because I want you to. No, because this is an important topic. So please share this video. Help us grow too, you know? But share this video so this info gets out because, as I said, Claire Patterson is kind of lost in history. And this because he fought the wrong people. But fortunately for us, he won. He won, and our kids and myself, especially, being an 80s baby, we saved, we saved a lot of those children and their development. And I don't feel much smarter than anyone else, but I can only imagine. We need to stop what we're doing with carbon now, and take this example that Claire Patterson set with his fight against lead and everything, because he got it out of food, he got it out of paint, he got it out of gas, so we got it out of our air. So we need to do the same thing for our kids.
Yes. Yes.
So, anyways, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
My dad came. I just wanted to say hi, Dad.
I see him in the chat. I tagged him on Facebook. He told me to let him know. So I made sure I did. I was like 20 minutes late, but I still did.
So cute. Aw, thank you, Mac. That's adorable.
Absolutely.
Yeah, my dad said, you better let me know when my daughter's on your TV show.
That's right. That's right. So I did. And I'll try to remember next time, too. I was so... my mind was everywhere before the show. So if you guys have any questions, please throw them in the chat real fast.
Yes.
We are about to wrap up. So thank you again to Nacho Witness.
Absolutely.
We super duper appreciate your help.
Yes. Yes. We're just gonna make him CEO, I think.
Yeah.
Daddy Nacho.
Daddy Nacho.
Like Daddy Warbucks. Daddy Nacho. Aww. Yes, and everybody that showed up, especially Red and Smitty, Purple, so many. I love everybody that's in here.
Yes.
Big time awesome people.
Yes. Thank you, Alias. Thank you, Purple. Thank you, Chet, for coming. Red, Venture, again, Smitty.
Smitty.
Someone else. Oh, we missed Brantley, but thanks for trying to stick it out as long as you did. I know you're going to watch this tomorrow, so thanks.
He gets up at like 4 or 3:30 or 4 in the morning. So
that's super early. I'll still be at work then.
Yes, you will.
So, again, thank you very much for coming tonight. So everyone knows, I think we're going to try to do this again 2 Fridays from now. That's the goal. We're going to keep it 2 weeks. We might wait a week or two to get it on our other channel, but we'll start uploading.
Yay, on the LEAH channel.
On the LEAH channel, yep. But everyone have a Happy New Year. Check me out on Sunday on Modern Day Debates channel. I'll be having a discussion with Nephilim Free. I'm super excited. Yes.
No.
Yes.
What?
And it's on anti-theism again. Is it rational? And I think it is. So, and I know he doesn't. So if you guys want to see my first dumpster fire, this could be it. This could be it, guys. I'm prepared to have this with
I'm so excited. Yeah. I'm so excited.
So please catch me there. And we'll see you guys here again in the next 2 weeks. And I'll have another Atheist Flashback sometime next week. We're not sure. We're not sure when yet, though. So, again, thank you all. Thank you again to Nacho Witness. I hope everyone has a wonderful night and a wonderful New Year. And we missed you during Christmas. So, everyone.